It was a long and winding road, but the Red Sox officially got their first sweep of the 2024 season. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and like I just said, over the last 3 games, the Boston Red Sox were able to take each one from the Oakland Athletics, marking their first sweep of 2024. This officially puts them at 5-2 on the season, and they're off to a little bit of a hot start here, second in the division currently, for all that matters at this point in the year, and they're actually looking really good. However, this series was really weird for the Boston Red Sox. It was a strange trip to get to this first sweep of the year. So what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to break down this latest series. We're going to talk about the good, talk about the bad, and what it could indicate about the 2024 Red Sox. But before we get into that, do me a favor. If you're new here, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Also, did you know that this episode is also available on Spotify? That's right, Red Seat Radio. Every episode is now available in podcast form. If you want to listen to these videos as opposed to watch them, you have that option as well. The link will be in the description of this video. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. I think the best place to start is with the starting pitching for the Boston Red Sox in this series, because while it was both really good, there were also some things that were slightly concerning, so there's a lot to talk about here. However, one thing that we don't need to really get into detail on is Tanner Houck's start, because it was absolutely fantastic. It may have very well been the best start of his career. He went 6 innings, allowing just 3 hits, not a single earned run, and tied his career high in strikeouts at 10, while maybe more impressive for Houck, not walking a single batter. Over this offseason, he did make some delivery adjustments that allow him to be more controlled in his delivery, which is really helping with his command on his pitches as well as his control in general. We saw it work in spring training where he had a really low walks per 9. We saw it here again in his first start of the year. Now, obviously, the A's aren't exactly the most potent lineup in Major League Baseball, so we're going to have to see how it works effectively against a more potent lineup like the Orioles or the Twins or something like that, or even the Guardians that are coming up pretty soon here. But a really encouraging sign from Tanner Houck. And through the first rotation of the Red Sox rotation, their pitchers were absolutely dominant. In the second game, we got Brayan Bello, who I think must just be terrified of possums or empty stadiums, because he just never pitches well in Oakland. It really wasn't a terrible start. He looked good outside of really a couple of bad pitches that ended up being dumped over the wall, but he ended up going 5 innings, allowing 5 hits and 4 earned runs while striking out 6 and walking just 1. The control was there, right? He wasn't walking a ton of people, but the command of his pitches in the zone was not. The reason he had a couple of balls leave the yard was because of the fact that his slider was sort of sitting dead middle of the zone sometimes, and he got punished for that a couple of times in this series. I'm not overly concerned with Brayan Bello. It just seems like he doesn't like pitching at Oakland for some reason. Honestly, if I was a pitcher, I probably wouldn't love pitching there either. It's probably eerily silent on that mound. This is something that was a concern for Bello last year, not being able to get lefties out, not being able to utilize that slider specifically to get lefties out. So we'll see sort of where that goes from here, but he still managed to keep the Red Sox in the game and allow them to ultimately win it. So it's really hard to complain about any of the starting pitchers in this series. Nick Pivetta finished this one off, and he was in a similar boat with his control and commands. He clearly did not have his best stuff in this game, but really bared down to get it done. 5 innings, 5 hits, no earned runs, 3 Ks, and a walk. He got the win in a 1-0 game, which is interesting because that's the first pitcher on the Red Sox to go from losing a 1-0 game to winning a 1-0 game in quite some time. What he did in this start was really show a lot of grit. He barely used his sweeper, which he utilized a lot in his first start, which was much more dominant. The feel for that pitch was just simply not there today. What was a good sign, in my opinion, for Nick Pivetta is despite the fact that he was out there with really no true put out weapon, he still got the job done, and I really, really love that from Nick. Again, it's tough for me to sit here and complain about these starts when the Red Sox won these games. Overall, when we're looking at the starters, my biggest fear was that if this was any other team that they were playing in Major League Baseball, they probably don't even get the sweep here. They might not have even gotten the series win, right? Especially with the way Brian Bayo was pitching. I don't know if they win that game. Nick Pivetta did not look dominant. I don't know if they win that game if they were playing, say, the Orioles or the Guardians or the Yankees or anyone like that, but they did end up getting those wins, right? And at the end of the day, it's hard to sit here and complain, like I just said, about wins for the Boston Red Sox. It's hard to get angry about that. And even with the Red Sox sort of shaky starts in this series, the rotation still looks really good. They still have a 1.54 ERA, which is currently the best in the entire sport. And so far, every single starter has been able to go 5+ innings for the first time since 2018, which is super interesting to me. Again, they weren't super pretty starts, but the starters are still absolutely doing their job, and they're giving both the offense and the bullpen a chance to win these games. At the end of the day, that's all that really matters. So while, yes, it wasn't the most aesthetically pleasing starts in the entire world, I'm not worried about this rotation quite yet. As for the bullpen, they were absolutely dominant. Not a single reliever in this series allowed an earned run, which is really, really impressive. I'm at the point now where I'm starting to truly believe that Campbell, Weissert, Slayton, and Chris Martin are about to become an absolute four-headed monster for the Red Sox over the course of the next coming weeks and months of this season. I'm really, really excited about what this bullpen could end up looking like. Again, it is the Oakland Athletics, and it's tough to fully gauge what this team looks like against a team like the Oakland Athletics, who probably are going to win about 50 games this season. But the bullpen was able to really do their job at probably the highest possible level, and that's a really great sign. I will say Kenley Jansen may end up giving me a heart palpitation at some point this season, but he still was able to get the job done twice in 2 games in a row, which is a good sign in terms of his health, even though you could clearly see he was trying to struggle through it in that second game. Either way, bullpen absolutely dominant overall, right? It's hard to get mad at anything the pitching did because you did win these games. Again, I'm going to say this a ton of times, but wins are wins, and at the end of the day, that's what really matters. The offense, a little bit of a different story. Honestly, there really isn't a ton of offense to talk about in this series. They were pretty quiet at the plate. And I know that sounds crazy when you have a game where the first game in this series, you win 9-0, but a lot of that was due to the fact that the Oakland Athletics committed 5 errors in that game. It wasn't so much their offense being potent as the Oakland Athletics shooting themselves in the foot. However, there were some really encouraging signs from specific players in this series, specifically Jarren Duran, who went an impressive 9 for 12 in this series, which is absolutely wild. He had 4 stolen bases, including 2 in the first game, 2 in the second game, and a 4 for 4 at the plate in the third game of this series. It honestly looks like he's picking up right where he left off before getting injured last year, and he's become sort of this absolutely perfect leadoff hitter. He's going to get on a majority of the time. I'm all in for that. He's going to absolutely wreak havoc on the bases. I'm all in for that. And more importantly, he's going to set up the rest of this lineup, right? Him being able to get on base at the pace that he was getting on base in this series allowed the Red Sox to create run production. Now, it wasn't off of a big hit or anything, but Jarren Duran himself was able to steal second and put himself in a legitimate spot to make a difference in this game, and that's absolutely what you need from your leadoff hitter. Again, some really encouraging signs from Jarren Duran. Trevor Story didn't have the greatest series in the world, but he did have an impactful one, which in my opinion is pretty important, especially in this middle game here, where he went 3 for 5 with 2 RBIs, including a really important one later in the game to tie this game up. He had 4 RBIs in the series as a whole, which was really nice to see, as well as 2 doubles, which again is a really good sign because the Red Sox need him at the plate. He will end up being the buffer between Devers and Casas in this lineup, and he may be one of, if not the most important player in this lineup that you need to see succeed. And so for him to have an important series like this at the plate is a a really encouraging sign. It also really encouraging to see him attack high velocity. That was a huge issue for him for the first 2 years of his Red Sox tenure. The fact that he was able to hit 98, 101 miles an hour and get on base with those swings is really, really important. So good signs from Trevor Story in this series. Tyler O'Neill continues his crazy hot start. He's now hitting .333 with a 1.145 OPS over his first 7 games. Obviously a super small sample size, but I think we're at the point now where Tyler O'Neill needs to be starting every single game. Ride the hot bat as long as humanly possible. It also doesn't help that Wilyer Abreu is really struggling at the plate. I believe he has, 2 hits in 11 plate appearances with 6 strikeouts. Not exactly a great start for Wilyer. He's also made a couple of really big mistakes in the outfield, so I would love to see Tyler O'Neill in this every single game. Outside of that, there were a couple of other productive at-bats from players in this lineup. Valdez had a sacrifice fly in the last game that allowed the Red Sox to win it. Cedar Rafaela had a couple RBIs on sac flies in the first game. Reyes had an RBI, Yoshida bringing one in. So it's hard for me to sit here and be upset with them ending up with a sweep. But man, you look at what they're doing so far offensively, and you can't help but want more. Their OPS is currently 20th in Major League Baseball. Our big hitters, Devers and Casas, are hitting below or right around 200. And what I think we missed most in this series were those big hits. Trevor Story had a couple of really big moments, but overall, right, there weren't a ton of super powerful hits in this series. There wasn't any home runs by the Red Sox, and it really didn't look like the Red Sox at the plate were as dominant as you hope they would be, because that's the hope. That's the ultimate goal. Allow the rotation to give you 5 innings in order for your offense to win these games. And honestly, again, like I said with the starting pitching, if you were playing any other team but the Oakland Athletics, I don't know with this offensive performance if you end up sweeping this team. But again, it's so hard to complain about this offense when you actually end up winning these games, because at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. My concern here is that the Red Sox offense really needs to get going, right? They need to start working as one combined unit. They did it a couple of games in the Seattle series where they started playing station-to-station baseball and did have those big hits. They need to get more consistent with that ability once they start playing more competent teams. Overall, when you're looking at this series as a whole, it's hard to complain about anything, right? It's hard to complain about a sweep for the Boston Red Sox. And I think at the end of the day, what I really loved about this series was over the last couple of years, it's felt like the Red Sox have really played down to their opponent. If they're playing a good team, they did play them well, but if they were playing a bad team, they would play them bad as well. This is a moment in this season where you go in and beat a team that good teams are supposed to beat. And in my opinion, that's a really encouraging sign. My only concern here is that it never really felt like the Red Sox were in control of these games. The first game, it did because of the errors, but the last 2 games, it really sort of felt like the Red Sox were playing themselves and ended up finally beating themselves towards the end and getting these wins. Again, a win is a win, so it's hard for me to sit here and say, oh, I'm really concerned about the Red Sox after they swept the Oakland Athletics, but I do want to start to see the offense really get going here. I think that's going to be the most important factor if the Red Sox can keep up this pace over the next couple of weeks. They're headed into Los Angeles right now to play the Los Angeles Angels, and they're red hot right now. So this should actually be a genuine test as to what the Red Sox could look like. My hope is that they can rise to the occasion, finish this West Coast trip strong, and get back to Fenway Park with an above 500 record. I do think it's possible. I'm unbelievably encouraged by the pitching on this team. I think this could be really something special over the next coming weeks. But again, I think we're sort of in wait and see mode. As for this series impact on the 2024 season, I don't really know if there's anything we can pull here that's going to indicate what the Red Sox are going to do, because again, the Oakland Athletics are essentially a AAA team. You should have won these games, and you did, which I guess at the end of the day is an encouraging sign. I just hope this hot start continues, because right now I'm having a lot of fun watching Red Sox baseball. So let me know in the comment section down below, what did you think? Did you like this series? Did you not like this series? Was there anything that concerned you in a sweep of the Oakland Athletics? Let me know all your thoughts on the latest Red Sox series in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton and would mean a lot to me. Don't forget, we are now on Spotify, so if you want to head over there and listen to these episodes in the future, that option is now available to you as well. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.